Hi, and welcome everyone to our podcast that is called Classical Arts Unpacked. This is our new project that we just recently launched, and we plan on issuing one episode per month, more or less. And in those episodes, we will invite some interesting people to talk to us about the arts. We will invite some students, alumni, professors, artists, or people who are just generally related to the field of the arts and culture. In those episodes, we will talk about not only classical arts, but we will talk about modern arts, about different tendencies, about learning the arts, so about education as well. So stay tuned. We hope you enjoy it. And if you have some questions, some comments, some ideas, feel very free to write those below in the comments. So welcome again. We hope this is going to be a great experience for you listening to these art conversations. And welcome to this very first pilot episode where Nadia and Fabio will be talking to us about a few very interesting, engaging topics.
Fabio, I really would like to know about your experience. And you're with us 4 years, right?
I'll start my fourth year soon. Yeah.
Yes.
This is end of my third year.
End of the third year, which is how you feel after those such a long time.
Yeah. I feel great. I feel better. I feel, more confident as an artist because of how much I can learn here, how much I learned already. And I know I can just stay here for a few more years and I will keep learning. This is a great place to be. I don't know, so many things, so many good reasons to be here. 3 years not enough, like you always say. At least 5.
At least 5,
Yeah, at least 5 is a very good time.
But why? Why you now understanding what at least 5? Because I remember when you came, you thought that you could start not. You remember you came together with your friend.
With Felipe.
Yeah, with Felipe. And I remember our first conversation. You mentioned what you already had some previous experience.
Yeah.
And Felipe been introducing you to our school.
Yeah. No, and it's true. I had some experience before. I look back and maybe I sounded a little bit like other students that come here with the same idea. But I did have some experience, but the problem was that I didn't have all that time. I didn't know how much longer I could be here. Maybe I could come for a few months. Maybe I could come for 1 year. I didn't know I'll be here for 2 years. I didn't know I'll be here for 3 or 4 or more years.
What you did learn in first year? Like, what was your expectation? If it will be like with your expectation, if you did receive everything what you wanted, what's your main strongest part? What you learned in first year?
I mean, I skipped the first.
Yeah.
So that was something different about my experience.
What do you think about it now?
No, from the first moment when I arrived, and even when I was trying to go to the second year, I knew that if I had to stay on first year, I had this conversation with Felipe many times. I was like, I would like to skip because I don't have a lot of time, and I would like to develop my portrait skills. And I know in second year they do composition, so I would like to work with that too. They do plein air. First year also does plein air, but I wanted to push myself to be a good second year student at least, because it was especially because it's the time you work with the model the most. You're doing portrait with hands. I believe at the end you do full figure, if I'm not mistaken. And all the skills that you're learning, they are more advanced. I was expecting to work with the model and paint portraits better.
But you mentioned to me it was some moment when you understood what some knowledge from first year even for you after such a year's experience previously, it was missing, right?
Yeah,
What you would be
because
suggested to the people who had the same situation?
yeah, I mean, it's not that I didn't study, for example, solids and geometry. I studied these things, right? So that's why I knew it wasn't the best idea to skip directly to second year, but I wanted to skip for other reasons. But I knew if I stayed in first year, I would still learn a lot. And I would learn and I would restructure all my knowledge to this method because I did study geometry and solids and I drew a lot of them and still lives. But here it's done in a different level. It's done in a more advanced level. You go deeper into the all this knowledge.
Which is
And
talking about constructive drawing approach.
constructive drawing, and also applying all the other things that you already should apply in still life. I was having this conversation with Natalia this week. Um, she was like, "Yeah, I know you skipped first year, and right now you're doing very well, but I can still see that the experience that we have with, especially with still life, is something that. She said it's not only me, but she said a lot of you guys are missing because still life is seen as maybe something simple, something you paint for a little bit and then you skip because you want to paint portraits. That was my case. But she said in still life, you get to develop so much, you get to learn so much on how to use color, how to use perspective, how to select, um, how to make decisions, right? When you're composing a still life, when you're painting, how to use your colors better. Same thing with plein air. On second year, I asked her, how can I paint portraits better? And she said, paint plein air. And at that time, I was a little confused. I was like,
What are you talking about? Yeah.
I'm asking about face and how to paint a nose better, like how to use colors better. But now I understand. So it took me a
Could
year
you
and a
tell
half.
secret what she asked for you?
I mean, I had problems working directly, very quickly, um, applying good colors. So of course it's a never-ending process. You're always learning more. You're always becoming better, faster. But also doing plein air with her, and this year I've been studying with her a lot, and I did plein air with her too. I'm understanding better what she means, and whenever I come back to the studio, I can see a little better because we're talking about the richness of color and brushstrokes and decision and atmosphere and how one thing's interacting with another. All this knowledge is you use it when you're painting a portrait too. Is the
Which is same knowledge, but you practically open this knowledge much more in plein air. And after applying that towards the portrait, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a lot of plein air before coming here. I did a few. I did some drawings. I did some paintings in Portugal, but very few, almost nothing. And nowadays, at this time of the year, March, April, it's a great time to go outside and do plein air, and you learn so much. I mean, the city is full of beautiful places to paint, and then whenever I do one or two or three plein airs, it's not a lot, but just a few of them. When you're getting back to the rhythm, if you sit down to paint a portrait, your portrait will be better for sure. And it's the same with constructive drawing. It's the same with studying anatomy, right? I did study anatomy before. In high
But
school,
level, right? What kind of
but
level?
the
is here?
level completely different. I studied in high school. I studied in university. I studied by myself, but it was never a deep understanding.
Which is academy give you much deeper understanding on all those subjects, which is practically making you better as an artist and more solid.
Yeah, totally. So putting all of this together, so and also the way the approach of the constructive method or the Russian method is very different from everything we have here in Europe, right? Or most places in Europe. You rarely see a similar approach to what we do here. Only when you're seeing someone that studied in Russia. or in Ukraine, or So I didn't understand the difference before I came here. I didn't know how much I was missing. I thought maybe anatomy, it was just something you could study, you could look at, you could draw schemes and everything,
And that's okay.
understand the names of the muscles and the functions, and that was it. But then you need to understand that you need the constructive drawing, because you need to know how to construct from the bones to the muscles and then putting everything together. It's not that easy. And like I said, I came from a different background, so I had to adapt. So that's the point where maybe skipping to the second year was helpful for some things, but I had to catch up a lot. I was constantly looking at the first years to see what they were doing and trying to see what my colleagues on second year had, so I could study by myself, because I was already on second year. But I didn't want to have this gap in my knowledge.
Right, which is practically you are somehow try to get that knowledge by observation and understanding, which is you practically will be suggested for student started from beginning, even if they already had a stronger art preparation.
Of course. Yeah, because like I said, I know how to draw a cube. I know how to work with perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point perspective, everything. But it's the way it's done here is different. The way, I mean, geometry is the same. Perspective works the same way inside the academy and outside. But the approach to it and how you're gonna use that with a model or a figure, that is different. And this is what I had to think about a lot and study and learn by observation, and also sometimes ask the teachers and be like, okay, so I know I skipped first year, but as a student from first year that has followed the whole process, or how should I approach this? How do I apply the knowledge of still life to a model?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not seeing a cube when I look at a person. So they said, yeah, but you should see the forms.
Exactly.
And not just everything round, everything soft, like I did before. And you should construct it. You should be able to see the shapes, right? The big, solid shapes. That was really helpful. And that's what you learn on first year, and that's what I had to learn on my way to until now.
What is in second year was most crucified for you as a knowledge, as understanding? What was something what you understand like this is really I get now?
I think what I started to understand much, much better when I came here was portrait. Was what I wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Portrait and figure. Um, I had a huge jump when I came here. Just me being in Flores was helpful, right? Just me being inspired was helpful. But working with portraits and anatomy, of course, it was especially helpful. But what I didn't know was that even more important after that, after the portrait, after the details, after or before everything, you need composition. So on second year, composition was important, was really important. But it wasn't my top priority, I would say. It was second level priority.
Mm-hmm. Because people normally not understanding what is the matter composition. Even now, a lot of students I see what they're still somehow wobbling, understanding for what we're doing everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could tell a lot for those people who is questioning for what we're doing portrait or
Yeah.
models and all the rest.
It's funny. It's even funny because you study, you look at paintings, you try to study them, and I always felt like there was something missing. Like I told you when I came here, I care about learning what the old masters used to know, and I don't see this knowledge in many places. So, and you told me, well, this knowledge you want, you can find it here. And at first moment, I was like, okay, that's really good. But I also thought, who knows? Because I heard the same thing about the other academies, but I can see something in this academy. Okay. So when I come here and we start to talk about composition, I was like, okay, so I think I studied some basics of composition. Let's see how much I understand. It was almost nothing. I thought I knew some things, not much. And then I used to hear this sometimes, but I didn't know how to take it. Like everything is composition. I was like, that's interesting. So my approach is not to, when I hear something different from what I know, is at least inside the academy, I try not to be like, okay, I won't listen to that. Especially because my teachers were saying that, I was like, okay, there's something here I'm missing. That maybe it's a secret, or maybe it's something that is confusing for me now. It's not a secret. It's, yeah, everything's composition. And when I started to understand that, things started to become a little different. So
Which is, you can't just write and say like you trying to do some portrait or you trying to do some model, and after you half page cutting because you didn't compose it. Yeah, that's not working that way.
exactly, no, it's everything falls apart. You can paint a nice portrait, but if the composition is not good, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
I had to understand this thing of like, when you're painting very close with a small brush and very soft, you're seeing the details and the texture of the canvas. Most people never see that. They, for example, if your painting is in a room, in a gallery or in a museum or everything, the first thing that will strike the person as interesting or not interesting is your composition, how you place your values, your colors. And after that, maybe a split second after that, is if it's a nice portrait, if the colors are nice, if the eye is in the correct place or it's off, you know. Sometimes a bad portrait can still look okay if the composition is really good. Of course, they all work together, but yeah, I think on second year I was mostly focused just on figure, human figure. So I was also paying a lot of attention to anatomy. I was doing a lot of sketching. I probably filled 2 or 3 sketchbooks just outside of the academy and in sketching class. But I started to understand a little more about composition. I was like, there's still many things here I'm missing. I'm not understanding this well. So instead of giving up, I decided to just try more and more and more and more, and until I'll either fail or I'll learn some things. And fortunately, I think I'm learning. I did a lot of work with Arseni that was super helpful. It was very insightful because he helped me open my eyes to many things that were out of my reach. So I think it was great to study with him, so he could, even because sometimes he would use examples that were maybe, for example, a little more modern than the compositions I was looking at. Because he wanted me to see just the composition. He didn't want me to see the figure, or like, oh, this line of the biceps is really nice. He didn't want me to see that. So it was great for him to show me a new way, a
How
new
to look
path.
at it.
Yeah, that helped me a lot. That really stayed in my mind for about something like, it was something that was cooking in my brain, and I think I started to understand much better last year. But still, um, compared to, I just learn more, and I go to the museums and I look at these artists and I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about composition, especially. I have so much to learn.
But practically composition, it's when you created your own piece and you're applying old knowledge about portrait, figures, anatomy, proportion, constructive drawing inside, right?
Exactly.
Which is because sometimes composition misunderstood outside, say like academy, maybe it's different slang, what they're using for their own creation work. And
Yeah.
just to make sure what we're in same page.
Yeah. Yeah, it is also your creative work, um, your own world that you can create, um, or like a fantasy theme or something abstract. It's composition, but painting a model, there's a big part of it that is also composition. So it's the creation inside a page or a canvas, right? But not just your imagination. We're not photographers, but we're always composing with our eyes when we look at things, right? When we look at a landscape. Yeah, it's easy to go walk around Florence and find a street that points to the Duomo, and you just want to put the Duomo in the center, and that's it. That is one way of a simple way of doing it. There are more ways. So
Yeah, composition could be much more profound. But as you mentioned about camera and about like different method, a different approach, what you did receive previously or what you see around, like how you acknowledge yourself now in those approach what academy offer as a constructive approach, as a those deep classical knowledge,
yeah,
what we're having here, what like how you could think about this direction now.
yeah. Now I just understand that I was I was looking for a way to reconnect with these old guys, like with these older masters. So until the beginning of the 20th century, I think it's all these schools were at a great level. The Italian school, the French school, the Russian school. All in Europe, you had great academies. So I wanted to reconnect with them. For a few years, I studied by myself. After I did my high school, after I spent some time in university, and I was not satisfied at all. I didn't feel like I was connecting with them. I could look at their works online. I could copy them. I could study them by myself, try to make a copy or try to make a composition similar to them. But it wasn't really deep. I didn't feel like I was uh, learning the same thing they were learning.
Why? What's not why wasn't satisfied by just copying,
Yeah, no, I felt,
missing knowledge?
yeah, I felt like it was shallow. I felt like it was the surface level um, of the old knowledge that these old academies
Which is practically you come out with the understanding what to copy, even to copy old master without knowledge. It's not really helping you as artist to grow, right?
100%, 100%, 100%. Also, if you don't
Because
know,
whole method built just on the copy, like, and people so fascinated by see how you could be better than camera.
yeah, the fight with the cameras, like it ended a long time ago. A long time ago. We don't need to. We don't. I don't see the need anymore. I had my moment when I was a teenager, when I was growing up, that I thought that hyper realistic drawings or paintings were really like cool. They were insanely good.
But
I
maybe
and
it's
then
because you don't have the knowledge yet,
yeah, no knowledge. I had no knowledge. I was
which is mainly it's attracting people who really not knowing much, right?
it's attractive because also for the general public, because it looks like a picture. So also even someone that doesn't understand um, a lot about art, or just I don't know. In my case, it was even my family members. Sometimes they would look at my works, some things I was trying to do like really realistic, and they don't they they don't need to know. They don't need to have the knowledge we have inside the academy. We are looking for it because we're artists. So for people outside, I understand that the view of art is completely different. But many people think that the compliment of, wow, it looks so much like a picture, they think it's a great compliment. They think it's like, wow, you paint so well that it looks like a picture. It's so real that it looks like a, I don't know, a picture I can take with my phone or better. I had that talk with Felipe many times. That's not a good compliment. That is not the compliment we want. That's not the goal also. It's good when you can paint something that resembles reality. Something that is not
Something figurative you're talking about, right?
yeah. When you can, I think I mean like when you can understand reality and you can represent it.
But it's a whole method which is built just on understanding reality. Like example, if we're talking about size, and how to copy reality, you think it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay. They can do it, but I couldn't do it. Before I was considering it, and many artists that I was looking up to, they came from that method, and it's a very structured, very very carefully designed method. It seems like, but I believe that yeah, if you enter a school like that, you can learn, because I believe that anyone can learn the technique,
Method
the
you're talking.
theoretical part of drawing and painting. You can understand how to mix one color with another and to create a secondary color, right? But I don't think that is the way for me to go. I don't think that is the path to reconnect, because there are probably some good things you can learn there. I didn't study in these schools, but what I learned here that is different from the other schools is what I believe takes me back, reconnects me a little more with these old masters. Also because
Do you think old
the
masters use size?
no,
No.
no, I believe it was a, for some, in some moments it was a tool, not a method. And it's very good to learn one more tool, how to use one more tool. It's very good to have many tools in your tool belt, right? When you need to use something very specific in this moment. Okay, it's very good. I want as many tools as possible, but here I learned so many tools, and I'm still learning so many of them. It's not one or
Because
a
it's not about
few.
one method. It's could the thousands method, right?
Yeah.
It's important part. It's knowledge. If I clearly understand you.
That's correct. And for me, the proof of that what we are learning here it's valuable is I can understand, when I go to the museum, I can understand the works better. So when I look at a landscape outside in a museum, like in Palazzo Pitti, there are beautiful landscapes there. I can understand a little better why they were painted, why the composition looks like that, why the artist chose that place with those colors, why he chose to paint it in that technique better. Maybe I don't fully understand, but I can understand better, because there's more to it than just a nice scene. When I see a portrait now, I don't know, we could be talking about Caravaggio, we could be talking about Ribera, we could be talking about, I don't know, so many of these old masters. The figure is not just a figure, it's part of a bigger concept. I never imagined that before. I mean, you would hear that, oh, and this figure connects to this, and there's a line here on the composition and everything. But I always thought it was very, very shallow. And here, I'm starting to understand that there's so much more to it. So I still know that the gap from me to these older guys, to these old masters, is huge. But I think I'm at least walking in that direction now. I'm gathering more tools, so in the future I can continue to study, and I believe the direction is much better than all the other directions that I could take.
But do you think you will be able to do a realistic portrait or realistic figure?
Yeah, there's also this misconception that because we're thinking about construction and we're thinking about solids and we're building things, that we are using our imagination to draw, and we're not gonna draw realistic things. I That's not true. Maybe what can happen is, maybe in other methods, you know better than me. I didn't study in these other schools, but you spend so long measuring everything extremely precisely, and you spend a long time in the drawing phase. I mean, I would hope that after spending dozens of hours just in the drawing, that your drawing looks really good and precise, right? Here, the drawing, of course, it's the base, for example, for even for painting. Drawing is the most fundamental thing. But we don't spend 20 hours in the drawing. We need 20 hours to do a painting. And I think 20 hours for a painting is a good time. It's not that much. Um, but yeah, but in 20 hours you can do a great work, starting from the drawing, going to a very nice result in a painting. Especially if it's just a portrait. 20 hours is more than enough.
Which
I
is
would
you will
say.
be able to do good realistic portrait if it will be necessary.
Yeah.
Practically, you have now opportunity to do whatever method what you would like, right? It's not like you, or like another question I'm hearing very often, like, are you able to do abstract painting?
Better than before, yes. 100%. So even
Which
if
is
I want to
you're
do
able to
abstract,
do
I can,
any of those, right?
because it's composition, like I said. And actually, the funniest part is, which I didn't think was the case here. We start our realistic compositions that in a later stage, when everything's developed, we'll use models, we'll have the correct costumes and the correct lighting and everything. We start with an abstract drawing,
The spots.
with spots, with shapes, and then we go for color. And then after you use the model and you have details, but it starts with lines and spots and shapes, and that is so different. But again, I can see this knowledge in the old masters. This was the knowledge that I was missing, and I think it's a an entire lifetime to understand these things, or to, I don't know, to fully understand everything that we see in the museums, for example. But I see the path now. Before, I couldn't see anything. I could
Which is
just
you see
see,
direction,
yeah.
how to.
Before, I could just see the end result, just a beautiful painting in a museum. It could be Rembrandt, it could be Caravaggio, it could be Bouguereau, it could be Sorolla, it could be anyone. Right now, when I look at a painting, I was talking with Natalia. We were working on my composition yesterday, and she was she was trying to explain to me that yes, you are progressing in composition, but there's so much more to know. And I told her something that happened the other day in the museum. I've been to Palazzo Pitti, I don't know, more than 20 times already. I love that place. It's probably my favorite place in Florence. So I know the rooms, I know the paintings in the rooms, everything. There's a painting that I saw there so many times, but last time I was there, a couple days ago, I saw the painting as lines and spots and rhythms and the distance between
Mm-hmm.
the heads of the figures and everything. I saw that, and then I saw the details, and I was like,
Which is
maybe
something
this.
changed not in paintings, but on your knowledge or approach, how you're looking at things. Yeah.
And then Natalia was like, yay. So before you were a baby that could crawl. So right now you're walking. That's really good. You're still a baby, but right now you can walk. So
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations. You can walk now. You're 2 years old, maybe. Um, so yeah, but that's what made me happy, and is to learn, is to be able to look at these guys and understand. Wow, before here for me it was just a maze. It was just confusion. I could just see the figures. I could just see some anatomy. I could just see light and shadow.
Mm.
But I couldn't decipher it. I didn't have the tools. And studying composition is really important, but doing composition is really important. So Natalia made me sketch and copy a lot of these compositions. Also, copy is something very important. Yes, we talked about
Yeah.
you need to have knowledge to copy well.
But did you receive knowledge through professor here? Did they give you all those necessary skills to work with old
And
masterpieces?
they're still giving.
Because you're almost now whole year working mainly with different copy, right?
Yeah.
How's
So
about that? How this experience been for you? Because it is some people who disagree to learn for such a long and such a deep the old master method, which is we're thinking it's a great value in it. What are you thinking?
I think the value is huge. Like I said, the point for me is to learn the traditional, the correct way of doing it. So painting and drawing for me is a language. It's a language that before I could understand just the surface. And right now I'm diving in. What I see in Europe is that, and even though this was born here, this was developed here and everything, I think the Europeans kind of forgot how to do their own things.
You're talking about schools, or you're talking about like
Schools, artists, individual artists.
which is you recognize a very big missing of those fundamental knowledge inside of professional schools.
And that is the only thing that it's one of the few things that I was sure before I came here, and I was still sure. Here I can find more ways to reconnect, to understand, to learn about the tradition in art. But I'm sure, like in many parts, it was lost. I mean, we see the Accademia di Belle Arti, the Florentine Academy, the traditional one, the school that Michelangelo was a director of that school, or his students were directors of that school. And where's the knowledge from Michelangelo?
You have David Michelangelo just across from door
On the same block.
on the same block across the door. It's Michelangelo work.
And I look around Florence, and the only things about Michelangelo that I can find are his works, but his knowledge was passed down to his students and to the further students and everything for a few centuries. And
Yeah.
now, also but even in other areas, in the architecture, where is it? In sculpting, Michelangelo was a genius sculptor too. Where is it? It's so that part was always a little sad to me. So even before I came here, many years ago, I already had this idea that, okay, So the chain was broken that connected us directly to these guys. You can still find, oh, my teacher worked with this guy, that worked with that guy, that worked with, I don't know, Anigoni, or that worked with, I don't know, Sargent. I don't know. But the knowledge, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see, and you don't see artists painting like them here in Europe anymore. It's very, very unfortunate. So I understood clearly, okay, the path's not clear. And I looked around and I couldn't find a path. And I wasn't sure if I would find it here, but I mean,
And after 4 years almost,
yeah. I mean, I'm not there, but I can see the path now. There's a light guiding me there, you know. And of
you're
course,
so humble
no,
because you have really good work. And yeah, I think you developed so much
thank
from
you so
beginning
much.
when I saw your work and up to now. It's totally different artist.
Yeah, my head is in a different place. But I mean, so I think everything, of course, and that's also my main point when I think about the academy. Most of the time we're here is spent in the studio, sitting in front of an easel, um, and probably half or more than half of the time is working with a teacher. Because many times I stay a lot after the teachers go home. But yeah, so let's say half of my time here was with the teachers. Yeah, all the work that I'm doing right now is because of the knowledge I got from them. Yeah, I could learn some things for myself. I think if you really dedicate yourself, you study, you read, you look around, you meet other artists, you can gather knowledge. But here, not only they're giving me the knowledge, but they're giving me the correct knowledge. I'm finding the questions and they're giving me the answers.
Which is you not come out to build your own bicycle. You're already running
Yeah.
because everything predisposed for that.
You don't need to rebuild the wheel, as they say, right? Or something like that. I have seen in some cases, even in my case, there are things that you can learn by yourself just by doing it, just by seeing, just by looking at reality, just by studying with your eyes and with a pencil on paper. But sometimes it can take years.
Which is just a matter of timeline.
And here, some of these questions, you just present them to the teacher. Also, that's really important. The teachers are here, and the teachers are so knowledgeable, so knowledgeable. That sometimes we think, oh, my baby, this is something really complex, really deep. The teachers here have been doing this for longer than I'm alive. They know my questions. And when I have a question that is very simple or even a little more complex, I just go and ask them. And you know what happens. They answer. And sometimes, instead of spending 5 years researching, doing it wrong until I understand,
You
in
could
a
get
few
it
weeks-
directly.
in a few weeks. I mean, like I said, I studied some anatomy. Yeah, you can study. You can buy anatomy books. You can buy the Bummis book. But if you don't see Yuri drawing in front of you, if you don't see the diagram, if you don't see, the correct thing, it's not the same. If you're not in class working with the teacher and you make a mistake and the teacher corrects you, it's not the same.
You did study mainly with Professor Yuri, right?
For
anatomy.
For anatomy, just Yuri, and it's even yesterday at the museum. It's I'm always like happily surprised. Also because his knowledge is huge. It's insanely good. His memory is still sharp. He remembers all the names, all the connections, everything. And he can tell you, like an engineer or like a doctor, how these bones are connected, how they work, the muscles, the tendons, the veins, everything. Or he can tell you as an artist how you can draw this, how is the shape of this muscle, how you should represent. So it's a language. There's a structure, there are ways of doing it. And he's insanely good at that. So yeah, and for anatomy, I always have a lot of questions. Maybe too many. It's not enough class time, but it's the same thing for the other teachers, and even with you, or even with administration, or even with Sarah. Sometimes just asking a simple question helps you understand everything. Um, in class, it was always that.
How you will be now, like looking at you from distance? We had a little bit this conversation before. What you will be suggestion for the upcoming students, or for students who is now here, to receive best knowledge away, like in terms of timing, and in terms of attitude, and in terms of like what is the best way to learn? What's on your opinion about it?
Well, coming to this academy is already good. Intentionally or by accident, I always tell this to the students, and you guys are not paying me to say that. You guys don't need to pay me to say that. Um, the academy is great. The teachers are so good. All of them. I have zero questions about their knowledge, their preparation, their background. I mean, we have teachers here that are basically my age, and I don't question their knowledge at all. So the best ways, there are a few things. Of course, working hard is it's a very important thing. It doesn't need to be said for any school. But coming to this academy is a good decision. Listening to the teacher is a good decision. Starting on first year is a good decision. I know I didn't do it, but starting on first year is a very, very good decision. Um, but yeah, and it's not enough to say listening to the teacher is important, because I always listen to the teachers, but now I do it even more, and the results show even more. It's even after 3-4 years of being here. Like you said, oh, okay, you progressed a lot. I know I worked a lot, and I had a lot of progress.
But what kind of
But
attitude as a student you will be suggested to have like best progression? Because it's of course it's always about how you're receiving knowledge or your capacity receiving knowledge, but I believe it's something even about attitude. And you mentioned about hard work, listening, like being class. But what else as a quality person need to have to receive best say capacity to get in knowledge after 3 or 5 years full completion?
yeah, it goes back to listening, but the attitude that I decided to have is, and I believe for my other colleagues it works too, is the idea of acting like a sponge. For example, you absorb everything that is being given to you by the teachers, also by the colleagues. You learn a lot with your colleagues too. Just by being in the studio with them sometimes is helpful. But listening, and listening is a good quality of a student. I think that's also really important. Is the teachers will do their job, but I think the student also has a job. It's not just to come here and sit down and wait for things to happen and debate or demand or um, waiting to be fed or babysitted. I think the attitude of um, hard work, but desiring to know, listening and applying what the teacher said. So sometimes it happened to me when I came here because I came from a different background. I wouldn't really agree with what the teacher was telling me.
So
But
you
my
mean
job
disagree, right?
but my job is not to agree or disagree. And I know, even if I disagree, most probably I'm wrong. Because they know what they're saying. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm the student. They are the teacher.
Which is you're talking about what practically you're learning not just artistic quality, but you even sharp yourself as a character, human character, right? Because this is something what I think it's a big part what you're learning in school as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, maybe what helped me a little bit to understand that is to have some experience as a teacher helps you understand that to be a good student is not just to be in class. There are there are qualities of a good student and a bad student. And I think being a good student is listening, doing what you are asked to do, um, even if it's against what you believe. And like I said, with the sponge, you absorb everything. When you go outside, when you walk out the door, if you don't want it or if it's not helpful for you, you squeeze it out. But I can't remember a single thing that I learned here and I don't want to use or it wasn't helpful. Sometimes just like I said, just having the tool is helpful. For example, maybe I don't work super well with this specific material, but the teacher told me, even if it's not a material you're comfortable with, it's gonna help you. Okay, I'll do it.
Example.
Um, sketching with soft materials, for example.
Mhm.
Ever since I was a kid, I've been drawing with graphite, right? So I know I'm comfortable with graphite. The teachers also see that. So many times it was suggested to me to draw soft materials, be it sepia, sanguine, or charcoal. And for example, I never did a charcoal drawing here. I did sepia, sanguine, I did mix them, but even for sketch, I had the teachers sometimes be like, I can see that you are more comfortable with graphite. That's why I'm asking you, let's not use graphite for like a month or 2 months. Let's change the paper.
Challenging you.
And
Which is it's very personal attitude, right? Which is teacher not looking at you like one of the block of the group, but
no,
they're giving you personal advice on your particular situation.
yeah. And sometimes I was like, but the teacher has to do with so many students. How well can they know my work? Well, they have a very good eye. They are trained for this. So they see my work, they see how I work during class. And also after a few months or a few years of working together, the teachers know very well how you work. So that's why they want to push you. Um, and sometimes maybe I wouldn't understand, but I would just nod and say yes, and or ask them a question. But why do you think that is important? Like Natalia for copy, she said, um, you could copy Bouguereau, yes. You could copy, I don't know, Jerome, yes. And I know, for example, these are artists that I I still love to look at them, and it's very pleasing for me to look at them. And it's what, for example, many artists in other academies look up to. I understand, and there's something beautiful about them. But she told me, I believe you let's say you can walk in that direction by yourself, and I don't think it's helpful for us, for example, to copy Bouguereau in class. I think it would be more helpful for you to, for example, copy Mancini in class, which is not easy, which is not what you do. And I was like, I understood, of course, but I was like, but why Mancini? I love Mancini. I love Mancini a lot, but why Mancini? Well, because for you, Fabio, it's gonna push you to learn this and this and this and this. And these are the things you're missing. As an artist, as a more complete artist, this is what you need. So it was very directed to me. And there's a reason for this with every student. Unless you're really fighting the teacher, or you really want to just copy this one artist, the teacher will give you what is better for you, even if you don't agree. I think they know how to, like a doctor. You might not like the medicine, but the doctor knows what is better for you. So yeah, and it was always like this with every single interaction with the teacher. So yeah, I think the attitude of trusting the teacher, even if you have to um, maybe go against what you think is right or what you think you know. I think that is a good attitude. Being dedicated to learn, being open to learn, not fighting what the teacher wants to give you. That causes friction. The teacher, as a person, maybe they won't be as happy, or maybe they won't give you more.
But may I ask you, as you done now already this copy of Old Master, what teacher suggests you, do you see the progression? I just would like to understand if you could recognize something what you get through that.
100%.
Yeah, what you get?
100%. I mean, first it was Mancini, right?
Yeah.
Just this year, I had to copy Mancini, which is very different from what I do, even though I'm absolutely sure he was an incredible master. For example, Sargent is one of my favorites, right? I have traveled to see his works. I have looked at his works a lot. I buy his books, everything. Once they asked Sargent who Sargent thought was the best portrait artist of that time, and Sargent said Mancini. So I was like, okay, I want that guy then. If the guy I like is good, I want the other guy even better. So I had to copy him. Very different way of working. Very different from the start, from the preparation of the canvas, from the color of the imprimatur. And the whole process was very different. The teacher guided me through the whole process. So it's a new process that I learned that is very helpful. It's a new way of approaching a portrait with a costume, for example, that I didn't have before in class. So you get a little more of an insight on what the artist was thinking, that is not just about painting, about the composition. I asked about the composition too, but why this composition? Because we can choose out of 100 paintings, the teacher suggests one painting. Okay, about this composition. All of this is already so much more than you can do just by yourself, by just looking at a copy, by just copying yourself. And then, of course, brushstrokes, colors, trying to use a similar palette, trying to use similar brushes, trying to apply, not trying to copy the exact brushstroke to the millimeter, but trying to capture the energy of the artist, trying to understand the brain behind the brush. Yeah, that is what changes. And I see that in class. Then, for example, after Mancini was Sorolla, Spanish master, painted from life on the beaches of Spain and everything, and figure under sunlight, and I love his works too. And it was the same. These are the from the teacher. These are the things that you are missing on your work that this artist has, and you also like this artist, and this will just help you to be more complete.
Yeah, benefit you in your own decision often.
Yeah. yeah, and of course the teacher asked me, what would you like to copy? Before saying that their suggestion, they would say, what would you like to copy? And I tell them, okay, I like these artists. I think I need this. I think I would like to learn this or this technique or everything. Okay, this is what I think the teacher would say. I think you need this. I think you should learn this technique. I think you should use a different palette or approach a different subject, everything. And even though we are artists, I also like to work with the facts that I see, right? And when I see that the teacher is giving me everything and my result is looking closer or better to look like these artists than I could ever do by myself, or by what I could do maybe if I was in another academy, that's how I understand that, okay, there's something right here. Things are going right here. So yeah, this is all these things, they connect to, like, it's a great place to be, but the academy will not feed you if you don't want anything. The academy won't give you any knowledge if you don't want anything. Um, so the attitude of wanting to understand, not to not to just hear about it, to understand. Gilberto said it many times. Theory is the light of practice, and full understanding is being able to apply everything you know. Until you can apply everything you know, you don't fully understand. So yeah, to get this full understanding, we need to listen to these very knowledgeable teachers here.
And what do you think about timeline? Because we build the program, which is 5 years education. And I heard, especially now in our very fast running days, everything wanted to have everything fast, like in 1 month you already drawing as a Michelangelo, and second month you became Botticelli, and third one you somebody else. What are you thinking about such a long, in one sense, and in different sense, such a short, because it's life investment, right? To be here per 5 years. If you look in the terms of your life, it's just 5 years investment of your life. But what do you think? If it's a good timeline, if it's necessary, if it should be shorter, should be longer? Because now you're closing this term.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear your opinion about even timeline.
No, yeah, I before I probably thought that maybe 3 years, because I couldn't stay for long. I didn't know how long I could stay, right? So maybe I thought, okay, I cannot do these 3 years. It's too much. Because of many things in life, not just because of the 3 years, but especially after coming here, I'm sure that 3 years to understand well, and we're talking about composition, to understand composition well, it's a whole journey that I don't think 3 years is enough. Just for composition, it's one thing of many, right? You can probably say better than me, even 5 years it's not enough. And for me, it's yeah, of course, time doesn't stop, and maybe some people want to have a life or start a career very early, or just be the best artist alive when they are, I don't know, 20 or something like that. I also understood that these things take time. And I also look at Russia, St. Petersburg, for example. If you have to study 3 years in a good school just to prepare to enter these academies, to enter rapping, for example, And even when you enter, and they probably don't skip first year, they probably don't skip second year, right? Even when you enter, you still have to study, I don't know how much, but a lot for 6 years.
Yeah, we have absolutely different system in our education process, which is, as I mentioned, we started from 7 or 6 years old and goes up to 14 with one block. And it's every week lesson 3 4 times per week, what we have per 3 hours. And after that, we're going for another block, which is 4 or 5 years, which is normally will be a college or special type of art institute. And after you're going for another block, which is another or 5 or 6 years, and it will be block of academy, which is we're learning more than 15 years in the
Yeah.
end. But it's same not just in art, it's same in ballet, it's same in music, with conservatory, which is it's just a way of education generally different. But as a European person, even here, like 5 years for a lot of people, it will be big investment. But in terms of the knowledge, you think it's valid to stay all those time.
I would be willing to stay more, to be honest. Um, yeah, I also heard this from people here. Why do you think you should stay more time in Florence? Why do you think you should continue studying? I don't know, like maybe they would say, "Oh, but you're already so good. Oh, but you could already teach." But yeah, but there's more to learn, and I care about learning. I care about it's not. I don't care that much about how good I am now. That doesn't really bother me because I hope, and that's why I keep working here. I hope in a month I'm better. I hope in 2 months I'm even better, and 3 months, and I hope in 1 year I'm much better than now. So yeah, that this time that I've spent here, it was also very good to learn to appreciate this time. And I mean, you came up with the idea of the academy here, and this time period of, we always think 3 years, but you always tell me it's 5 years.
Yes.
And I'm starting to understand better that too, like why it's 5 years. Why one thing we say, oh, it's a regular course and then masters, but it's all connected. Um, and yeah, I think it's 5 years is for, again, maybe some people don't have all this time to stay here, um, for many reasons, for many life reasons. But if you can, or if you want to be an artist, if your life it's about that, it's about following this journey. And I mean, 5 years is nothing because you continue on this journey until there's no end. There's no end. So I understood that. Okay, there's no end. Investing 5 years now, or even from now on, investing 5 more years. Yeah, I don't think I'll have problems with that. I mean, I don't think it will make me worse.
But sometimes, like I see what after like few years, person became much more knowledgeable, of course, because they're receiving in those years knowledge, and as you mentioned, they feel more comfortable and feel what they could do things. Sometimes it's happening with people just say like um, tired of learning in generally, and they have somehow broken emotionally. What you will be suggest for this category of people? I'm sure you had this kind of moment when you feel like basta, like I'm done.
I never felt like basta from learning, from I'm done with this academy, or I don't want to come back to Florence. I never felt that. And it has been a few years that I'm here. Of course, there are moments where you are really tired. Of course, there are moments where you enter this heavy routine of coming here in the morning and leaving late at night. And when you go home, the only thing on your mind is what I'm gonna do tomorrow, or I have homework to do, or I'm gonna work for my teachers. So I understand it can get heavy, but like I said, if this is for a whole life as an artist, I understood, and I think that it will work for everyone. You have to dedicate this time. You have to invest this time. Yeah, it's hard, but like I told you, maybe I appreciate it here so much because I had very bad teachers at one point. I was in art schools that didn't teach me anything. And they didn't want to, and they couldn't teach me anything because their teachers didn't study anything about classical art. And the teachers before didn't study anything, so they could not teach me. So whenever I would want to draw even a fruit, realistically, I would get a no. I would get like, no, just that is not enough. A portrait, no, just that is not enough. You're not creating, you're not developing, you're not coming up with a new philosophical idea. No, it's okay, but you should do something different. So all after going through these experiences, I was like, okay, I really want classical art. How long does it take? Oh, it takes a few years. Okay. Before maybe I thought, yeah, it's a lot. So I already studied in high school. I mean, I've been drawing for a long time, but in high school I was specializing. In university by myself, and I'm gonna still have to spend 5 or 10 more years studying. Nowadays, I say, okay, if it's gonna make me better in the future, okay. If for whoever's listening, if this is what you want, that's okay. You should do it. Um, like you said, 5 years can sound like a lot because it is a long time. I would say 10 years is also a long time. But if after this you still have, let's say, 6 years of doing this, and you only get better, especially because, like I said, here I'm getting the structure that even if I don't come back next month, or if I go back home and I continue with my life and I don't come back to the academy, at least I have some base, some structure that I can build on top. I'm not clueless anymore. I don't have anything covering my eyes now for where I need to go, you know. And
And you have a lot of tools, right, which is you could use
I said, yeah.
for make better those particular direction what you will be choosing.
Yeah. And I thought about this. For example, there was a period I really liked illustration. There was a period I also really liked. I thought about getting into animation, or even 3D modeling, or gaming industry. I had all these ideas. Even if I want to do these things, right now I'm so much more prepared because I also believe that the knowledge you get here, it could serve for, even if you're not drawing or painting, just your eye as an artist developing so much
Which is it
could
talking
serve
even about different specialization, what will be benefit from such a knowledge what you receive now in academy, right?
100%. If you
Yeah,
want to be a
true.
tattoo artist, you could come here. If you want to be an illustrator, you could come here. If you want to work, um, I don't know, even with photography, it'll help you because what we're learning here is different than photography. But you go back 100 years ago, or even more, these photographers, they were the knowledge of composition and lighting and everything they were getting. Who could do it better? Who were the best at doing that at the time? Well, painters.
Mhm.
So they were looking at that. Movie directors were also looking at painters. So I don't think you're missing anything by spending 3 years, 5 years here. And again, you said there you start really early. That's helpful. Here, maybe someone in their 20s, in their 30s, it's hard to just, for example, not work for 5 years. Yeah, that's a complete different situation than being a kid. But 5 years, I used to think it was a lot, but
It's run so fast, yeah?
yeah, it goes by. Like I remember the first week I was here. When I came here, it was a dream come true, right? Studying in an academy, in a good academy, after going through some bad schools, bad teachers, everything, after not having anyone to talk to about classical art, about how to be a painter, or I'm doing this copy now. Oh, do you know this artist? Or sharing this. Here you have that. You have your colleagues too. You have your teachers. So I came here. I was in the zone, let's say, and the whole thing works together. Even the city.
Yeah.
You go to the center, you look at the city. I don't get tired of the city. I used to study to hear about the city. Oh, the city was during the Renaissance. If you don't talk about Flores, I don't know what else you can say when you talk about tradition in art.
Which is benefit even to be in Florence, around or surround all those masterpieces. It's building you as an artist, right? Immensely.
It's and even the little areas in the city that are not very famous. Um, Sometimes you just go to them and you discover, oh, there's some part of history here with the Medici, or maybe in this building there's an fresco by Michelangelo. It's full of history everywhere. So being in the city, it's also really helpful. So it's a many positive things together that connect you to grow, right? To develop, and then you can just get the train and go to Rome, go to Bologna, go to Pisa, go to Venice. So
That's,
easy,
yeah.
so easy.
If I will be asking you, because now I see it's a lot of in internet popular like free important things or free like advice. If I will be asking you to give those free advice for upcoming people, what it will be?
Um, just three.
Yes,
We talk about many of them.
you know, like a lot
Yeah,
of things.
no, we talked about many of them, but as what exactly do you mean specifically for being a student here or for just
For
growing as an
yeah, free
artist?
advice for person who choosing the schools, choosing the cities, choosing career as an artist. What's your advice be?
I think the easiest one is choose Flores. First of all, as a city. Um, yeah, I would say choosing. Of course, everyone needs to choose what they think is best for them, right? Uh, for someone that wants to follow a similar path as mine, um, which is the thing that I can be sure about that it's working for me, is to look for a place that will give you the correct tools to pursue your career, your path. Um, so you need to research, you need to study, you need to be careful with the place you choose. And I would say after deciding, you need to invest yourself 100%, and that is part of um, the mentality, the attitude, being a good student, like we said many times. that goes for everything, but it's really important here. Sometimes people think art is easy, or I'll just do this for a little bit and see how it goes. It's a very serious thing. It's not a joke. It's and it's extremely important. We are missing good artists nowadays. I feel like that's very true. So hard work is easy to say, but I would say um, a strong focus on the correct things that work for being an artist. Um, and I didn't want to touch on the thing about the other academies, but it's always something that comes back to my mind too. That Gilberto said, an artist that only has their eyes, no, sorry, an artist that doesn't have knowledge is limited to their eyes. And I, I thought about that so many times, and I think that means if you probably fail, you'll be tricked by your own eyes. You'll be tricked by your limitations if you don't know, or maybe if all you do is just copy what you see. If there's not more than that, um, I would say you're done. Unfortunately, most artists, I would say, it's unfortunate. I would say most artists suffer from that. I suffer from that. It's hard to not just look at the surface level of what you see. I think when you don't have the knowledge, that's the easiest thing to do, is to just be stuck on the surface. So I would say choose correctly the place, the teachers, the method also that will guide you in a good direction. Then, of course, full dedication, perseverance, resilience. Um, there are hard times. Not every day is pretty, um, but working really hard. And then I think it's also really important to love this, to enjoy this. Maybe for me, it's not that hard because I just love being here. I just love studying here. The city is beautiful. Mm, if you lose that, then it's not also not great. If you're losing that passion, that fire, then yeah. So choosing correctly, um, full dedication, and keeping the passion alive. Maybe it's a little cheesy, but I think it's positive.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fabio.
Thank
It
you
was
so
a
much.
pleasure.
It was my pleasure.